All right, everyone. So I have such a special interview today, and I was thinking to myself, how can I landmark Days of Our Lives 55th anniversary? And you really can't do it without this guy. And I haven't seen my friend in like a very long time. So I reached out, and here I have with me Peter Reckell, direct from New Zealand, Wellington, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Halfway around the world. Amazing what we can do with Zooms, right?
Yeah. I mean, Zoom has become, I think I'm in contact with my family more now than I was before because, you had to with Zoom, and then it's so easy. It was like, well, I'll talk to you next week. Or otherwise you wouldn't talk to them for, months.
So, of course, everybody knows that you play Beau Brady. It was on and off for 4 decades, really, wasn't it? 1983 was when you first came on, and then you came back.
Yeah, for 3 decades I was coming and go.
Right.
I was there for 4 years and went away, did Knots Landing 2, then went back for 2, went off and picked my nose for 2, and then came
And then you're back. So first of all, tell me, how is New Zealand? How's the family? And you're in this safest place kind of in the world for COVID-19. I can't, what were the chances of that?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of history.
Sure.
Kelly and I had our honeymoon here, and we just fell in love with it back then. And we visited a few times, and when Loden, I forget how old she was, we came to visit, and she fell in love with it, and we just had this pull, I guess, a draw. It was more of just a feeling that, you know what, we love it so much, let's just move there. And it's just like being at home. We call it home, and in a very short time we called it home, and because that's how we feel. And then stuff happens in the world, and you go, why did I have that feeling? Because this is in the world.
And it is a beautiful place.
Correct? Yeah, I don't know if I visited, but when Kelly and I came for our honeymoon, we did, spelunking and river rafting and camping and horseback riding and mountain, all those things are within reach. And there's only, 5 million people here in this space. I guess it's about the size of California. And so comparatively, there's not very many folks here. And so when something like COVID happens, it's been a strain like everywhere else is on the economy, et cetera. But we were able to keep control of it.
I do want to say one thing before we move on, but you were always Mr. Green, go green. You were always very environmentally conscious. I just remember learning so much through you and how environmentally conscious you were. Are you still that way at this point?
If you have a child, I don't know how you can't be, just looking at your child's future. And even all the folks who poo-poo the climate change and stuff like that, I think about it, especially with a child, going, you know what, some incredibly intelligent people are saying these things are happening, and people that I can't even understand what they're saying most of the time, but they're saying, if we don't change, something bad is going to happen. And then there's the folks that go, no, that's not true. I think, especially if you have a child, like back when seatbelts weren't a law, people jump in the car, and there was a chance that you could die in a car crash, and seatbelts could save your life. And some people go, oh no, and don't believe it, and bad things happen. And for me, another example is helmets, motorcycle helmets, bicycle helmets. And people go, oh, you don't need them. I am one person who, if I hadn't had a motorcycle helmet, I'd be dead right now. Because one morning I was on my way to work. I was taking my Harley Davidson into work because we were using it on the set. in the show that day. And it was dark out because it was winter in California. And as I was just making the turn into the lot, and a pickup truck saw me slowing down too late. He slammed on the brakes because the roads were wet. He couldn't stop. Slammed into the back of me. I went flying. Ended up on the sidewalk, looking back at my motorcycle underneath this truck, going, guess I won't be riding the motorcycle.
God.
But if I hadn't had a helmet, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
And I've had experiences, with my bicycle, the same thing. It's just something could happen. So, and smart people are saying this could happen. And if you have a child, why risk it?
Right.
I'll put on my seatbelt. I'll put on my helmet. Why risk it? As far as our Mother Earth is concerned.
Right. Well, I want to go back to when you, got the role of Beau in 1980. Well, 1983 is when we first saw you as Beau. And this legacy of this character must always be with you because people always know you as Beau. And it's so funny. I always talk to people and they're like, is Beau coming back? I'm like, well, he died. And they're like, well, because of what? Everybody dies on days. And I'm like, I know, but he kind of died. And, but there's always this love of a Beau. Everybody, I mean, he's such a memorable character.
Speaking of people coming back, sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, no.
Steve is Stefano?
He had a brain chip implanted.
I know about those brain chips. Okay.
You know about those brain chips. The brain chip came, and all of a sudden he was Stefano. So he was taking stuff from Joe Mascolo and incorporating into how he would do the character. And it was kind of like, nuts, but he pulled it off for however you would pull off a brain chip in your brain.
Of course he did. He's amazing.
Well,
right, go ahead.
No, but so as I'm saying, it's always like, is Beau coming back? And what about Beau? And here we are, 55 years of this show. They brought you back for the 50th. I think you were part of the 50th celebration too. And 55 years, and it's still going on. But when you got the role, what do you remember? Do you have a memory of the screen test when you first got the role? Do you remember? Is that all still with you? What happened?
Oh, you're right. It was a long time ago. Yeah, I do. And Shelley Curtis, I just got to thank her because she had the vision of Beau and Hope, and she really stood behind us on so many things, especially with what I was doing with Beau. Hair, blah blah blah, and my bringing in my wardrobe, my cut off sweatshirts and stuff.
So they but that was your stuff, and they incorporated it in, right? They let
you
dress.
I gotta hand it to Al Rabin and the writers for just going, I don't know what's gonna happen, and just let it go. Well, like the tattoo. The first time I was in a scene with my shirt off, we were swimming in the river or something, and that weekend I went down to Venice Beach and got that tattoo put on my, in a henna thing. And Shelley told me this quite a while after it happened. And I was like, hey, I put this on. You think Al's going to like it? She's like, I don't know. Let's just do it. And she tells me later that, back then it was very regimented. We did our rehearsals and a rehearsal and a dress rehearsal and taping. And once you got into taping, it's, the end of the day and you're just flying. And I come out of the water and start my scene. So there was a quick flash of my back as I came out of the water with the tattoo. And Al turned to Shelley and said, did he have something on his back? And Shelley was like, because we just kept going. It was established and we had to keep it. And, and.
So you got the tattoo because you wanted to get a tattoo, or you wanted it for the character?
Yeah, I wanted it for the character.
Got it. Okay.
And, like so many of the other things, long hair, blah, blah, blah. And whatever it was, a year later, we're having a storyline around Steve's and mine and our girlfriend's tattoo. So it was a lot of good luck and a lot of just winging it.
But you were smart. But you kind of, it's interesting. You're one of those people that, like, along with the writing, along with the produce, like, you really created this character, right? Because you brought so much of your thought process or everything to it. It wasn't just, oh, I'm showing up to read a script and doing my, right?
And the writers, back then, no matter what the actor was doing, they were really smart and went with what they were bringing to the character. So, and it was difficult because you've got so many script writers and they all have different ideas what the characters are. So the actor has to keep a through line and and just sometimes it was difficult because you're saying something very different from what's on the page, and they're like, and it's, you've got a bunch of people who are watching that roadmap, which is the script, and they're going, oh, where'd he go, where are we, and director's trying to get all the shots in because you're just flying. But we're fortunate, Kristian and I, that they helped us along and encouraged it.
When did you realize there was this super fame of Beau and Hope, and it was like this, it was huge. I mean, there was this part of pop culture. And when all of that was going on, did that bother you? Was it too much? Or when you look back on it now, or did you like all of that attention and publicity and the popularity of them? Or now do you look back on it and go, it was a lot to deal with?
Well, when I look back on it now, I'm going, I didn't handle that well. Soap Opera Digest did that article with me on I think it was their first single cover, because they always had couples on it or something. And, I said some kind of crazy things. Now I look back on it, I'm going, oh, Jesus, what was I? But, it was I went from just a kid who had an agent and that to, all this other stuff with publicity and people. And I went on one of those events in a mall, and they had the stage in the center of the mall, and so I had to walk through the people to get up there, and they had a couple of guys helping me get up there, and I got all dressed up, got a nice new shirt, and by the time I got to the stage, my buttons were ripped and the pocket was ripped, and I'm like, what the heck? What's going on here? So, all that stuff, at first was difficult and challenging, but, after a while, it's just part of
the job,
what you want,
Right.
It gave me a job for 30 years. So
and
couldn't whine about it.
No, and did you know, was there a moment in whether it was the Oak Alley story or whatever there was there a moment with Kristian that you're like, okay, we're obviously a magical on screen together and everyone was there a moment you're like, this is gonna stick? Did you feel it at any?
No, the two of us just went in every day and gave it our all. And, when getting off the plane in New Orleans and they got a brass band welcoming you and thousands of people is just like, what the heck is this? It was nuts. And but I'm proud of the two of us because we were able to keep it together and just every day see what we could do with what we were given. And that was why we were in the actors. So let's go in and have some fun.
When you made the decision to come back and you knew they were going to kill, you were like, you wanted him to die, correct? You wanted him to have a closure.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason I went back is the way Beau was let off the show. I'm not sure what the writers and producers were thinking at that time, but it was very unfair for the audience who had
invested in him. Yeah.
Invested, thank you, that's a better word, invested in the show. And just to have Beau not return, and people talk about him and have phone calls with him and stuff like that. It was just not fair. And when Ken called me and said, "Hey, you want to come back?" And I was like, "Yes. Can we give the fans what they deserve?" And they bent over backwards to because at that time I was living in Nashville, and they wrote something that worked out, so I didn't have to be there the whole time. You know, all those prison scenes, I'd go in and tape 8 shows or whatever it was in a day, and then go back home. And then the last section, my family came, and we were in LA for I think a month or 6 weeks to do all the final stuff.
That was the saddest ever. It was. I was like, I can't. What?
Oh, it was sad for you. I mean, I would go off.
I'm saying I can imagine. No, I'm talking. If I was me, what was it like for you, like going through this?
It was awful. There were so many times like that in the scenes in the pub. Like I had that scene, Bill and Susan, and and I barely held it together getting through the scene. And then I had to go off into my dressing room, cry for a few minutes. Told the stage manager, "I'll be back in a little bit."
Oh God.
Back on, and yeah, it was pretty difficult, but it was my choice, so I couldn't whine about it.
No, but it was, and then you and Stephen Nichols. I mean, those scenes were just. I don't know how you did those either.
Yeah. Well, we have just people that you respect like that, and
right.
And the directors and producers helped out with those scenes because several of them were very different from what because we had so much history they couldn't really say no, you're not doing that correctly, because we knew, like Steve and I, we knew what we were going to do, and there was new stuff with my daughter growing up and things like that, which made it a lot of fun.
Do you remember leaving that day? Like you had died on the show, and it was like you're leaving, right?
Well, that wasn't, you die on the show.
But you came back.
Yeah. For one day.
Monday.
Yeah, because she really didn't. That character really didn't have Beau and Hope really didn't have a goodbye, and because we had those scenes where she's going, or Hope's going, what's going on, oh, you're dead.
Like there was no big
yeah so we just had to come back and give her permission to move on with her life, which I think she needed, but
did you get the sense of when all was said and done with this, did you feel the sense of closure and a full circle moment? Did you leave feeling, I've completed this, I've done what I wanted to do with Beau, which was such a magnificent run and so many stories and performances? Did you feel like, okay, I'm good with this now? Did you feel that? Or
yeah, that they took some time to figure out what needed to happen with Beau, closure of Beau, and helping the character of Hope move on. But it was done finally, and and I'm proud of them for doing that for the audience.
So there are 2 ladies that I know were very special. Frances Reid, I know, was so special, and I remember, because I always used to love the donut. She loved the donuts for Beau, and Alice did that. And we were actually, you and I were actually, there was a memorial they had at the commissary for her. And that was such a hard day. And I remember I was like so worried. I was worried about you. I was like, I hope Peter, I kept thinking about you. And, but she was amazing. And she really had so much fun with you, she would tell me. I mean, what a crazy, it's like, what a pair.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. We would always get in trouble because you know, she had a similar viewpoint on the scripts and the stories and stuff as I did, and you know, trying to bring as much life and reality into our characters. And sometimes, you know, we'd have, you know, one of those soap opera lines that soap operas, and we would just start cracking up, and you know, those kind of laughters that you can't look at each other kind of thing, and and producers would yell at us because we're not getting the work done. But we really had an amazing time with each other.
She was a feisty lady.
Always. And wasn't she always a grandma on the show?
Always grandma.
She was what? She couldn't have been, you know, like 40 years old or something.
And she was grandma.
What?
Do you think they saw what was going on between the two of you and they wrote more of those?
Oh, probably. Oh, yeah. To have her come to New Orleans when we went down there, have her show up, you know, drive a carriage and stuff. It was like,
she fought for Beau. She fought for Beau. Yeah. The other one, you know, and then we lost Peggy McCay. And I was actually, we did a thing for the Dual app where the actors got together and we had them watch back some scenes of hers and everybody commented on it. And we did it at the Brady pub and they were eating clam chowder and we were all having them talk. Yeah. And that was hard too. And what can you say about working with Peggy? And again, Beau and Caroline had that special relationship on the air too.
Yeah. Well, one thing I got to say, you know, not that it helped, but every time I put in a reel for the Emmys, well, I think pretty much every time one of my scenes was with her, because we just had such a connection, and they were always powerful scenes to have, you know, a mom and who was my mom and Pop who wasn't my dad, and her, you know, it was always such a you know, full emotional relationship, and so we always had some really good stuff. And she was just an amazing, you know, to have those two women who just gave everything to their work. It was a privilege.
Peggy was an actress's actress. I mean, she was an actress. That's what I remember about Peggy. Like, here's an actress, whatever you want, you know, she can just.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah. And I remember being with you. I remember the night you were nominated for an Emmy in 2009 for lead actor, I believe. And it was your first nomination, right?
First and only, yeah.
First and only. And I remember, but it was, I think some of the scenes were with Peggy McCay.
Probably, yeah.
And I remember
plane crash stuff, I think.
Oh, when Pop died, when he died. Yeah. Oh, that was also terrible. Terrible in a sad way. I mean, but I remember that too, and I was so excited for you because I figured like, well, that's a long time coming.
Yeah, you know, I never, you know, I did obviously get excited for that, but you know, it is kind of, you know, who's voting for who and stuff is. The awards I was more proud of is the ones that happened at the beginning where the audience was voting for
the Digest Awards and things like that. So John Aniston is now your dad on the show. You're like, wait, so that's my dad? So when you found that was going on, what was your initial reaction to, like, you got to work with some really great veteran people like Peter, you really did. Like,
didn't I? Yeah. Well, I forget the circumstance, but I tweeted something a couple years ago that, you know, they say about my performances. And I'm like, you know, I got on that show. I did have some experience with daytime from As the World Turns, but to work with the people that I worked with, and they, Wayne when I first came on, and Dee, and Jim, and those were veterans that you know that I learned from every day and got to work with, and I came in just chewing the scenery, and they, Wayne, that relationship with Wayne was just
Oh, Roman,
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah. We had a great time, and to have that, you know, those kind of relationships in daytime TV, where it's not always about the romance, but brothers and moms and dads and grandmas and stuff. What could be better? There was so many very deep relationships. So it was great.
I just don't know that John Aniston delivers the best one-liners of anybody. Like I mean, yeah.
Every day you go in, there's at least 3 or 4 jokes before you start working on your stuff. Yeah, I was very and just so solid. Every time, we're working through the rehearsal and stuff, and it's just like you get to perform. Wayne was that way too. You're goofing off in rehearsal, and then performance happens. You're like, whoa,
You're back. You're back.
Yeah, you got to really bring your A game to really be fun.
When you saw how over the time the show got more outlandish or more out, the storylines became, the brain chips and the this and the that and all of this. Were you liking all that, or did you think, what is happening?
Oh, you mean when I got to be a mime? That was the
mime.
Mime. I remember the mime. Yeah. I think one reason that I don't know, it just kept working for me is I would just take that script and go, okay, all right, let's do what we can. And I never made fun of it. I never. It is just what it is. It's daytime, and you don't. It was always the best material to me, and when you look at it that way, you're going to give it your all, and you're going to try to make. There were times I go into the producers and go, "Hey, this isn't. I wouldn't do that as Beau. I wouldn't do that." And maybe, well, tough. Sometimes they would make a few changes. In the later days, it got a little more strict. But most of the time is you got to do what you got to do. And I was like, okay, if you hit it with that innocence, you can bring in more things that make it real to you. Because you can't get away with anything. The camera's right there in your eyes, and the audience is going to know if you're don't take it seriously.
Well, you make a really good point. I think what you did with Beau, there was always an innocent, there was such a, I don't know if innocent is the word, but your heart broke for him when he broke. You were like, he was almost like that little boy, but he was this tough guy. There was parts of him that you were able to do that I think made him such a successful character that made him beloved to the audience. Did you infuse that in the character? Or did you kind of know, like, or is it just what you brought to it, or were you trying to do anything particular?
No, I wasn't trying to do anything but my job, and I love my job, and I just do just how I work. There wasn't any conscious effort. People are gonna like this better if I give it my all.
You left Days to go to my favorite show, Knots Landing.
Oh yeah,
I loved Knots Landing.
Yeah,
and you were as Johnny, and you were working. Weren't you brought in as Paige's love interest?
Oh yeah,
Nicolette Sheridan.
Oh yeah.
So, what was the Knots Landing experience like for you, Peter? Because you were not on Days. You went to do that, and you were there with Michelle Lee and Joan Van Ark, like the whole group. Were you like, what? What was that like?
Well, it was like a vacation, because it was just one show every week, and you got to go in and go to different locations, and at first going to the stage was different because you got these little cubicles that's your dressing room and stuff, but technically there was a lot of stuff that was different, but it was fun. It was just about going in and having fun. And Nicolette was great. We had a lot of laughs. So I don't know. It was just sort of the same thing, but less.
But were you kind of like, oh wait, this is only one, I don't have to work there's not as much material, and was it?
Not a lot of other things. When I'm working on days, there was not much else I did in my life. And once I left the show, I kind of figured that out. I was like, what, internet? All sorts of things happened while I was working on days in my little bubble. And when I went to Knots Landing, I mean, I put an addition on my house, and busy doing all sorts of other things while I was working, which didn't happen while I was working on days, because I was most often very busy.
Right. Was it weird for you to know that somebody else was playing Beau?
That was strange. And
Robert Kelly was playing Beau at one point.
Yeah, and a little. I got possessive of this character that I created, and somebody came in and did it differently. But of course, he had to. But I felt a bit possessive over it.
I know when you are on Twitter, when you do make an appearance or say something, people do notice, because you're not always on there all the time. Yeah. Do you feel love coming back at you from people and interest, or do you see what they say, or?
Oh yeah, it continually surprises me. I'm like, I've been away from the show forever, and there's still this passion, and it's great there's a couple of people who put out some of the old shows, they put them on Twitter, and that's actually how I can go through and, hey Loden, this is what I used to do, because she couldn't watch a show when I was on. And I can be very particular because she really, I don't know if you've heard Kelly tell that story of Loden watching, I was on Today Show or something like that. And they showed a clip of Kristian and I, and at the end of it, we kissed, and Loden went, no, 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 at the TV when she was 2 or something.
No. Now wait, is she 12 or 13 now?
Just turned 13, yeah.
What?
Yeah. She's a teenager.
Now you're a teenager dad. Oh my God. So is she gonna, so I suppose no, she can't date anybody.
Till she's 35. And she's starting to get interested. Dad, because she's at an all-girls school, and she had a dance actually last week where she went to the boys' school to have a dance. And I'm like, okay, honey.
Oh, no.
No getting phone numbers.
Oh, that'll be interesting to see how this goes.
One good thing there's something about her that she cannot lie. So she'll come home mostly to mom and just tell mom everything that happened, everything she thought, whether it was good or bad. she's a pretty lucky. I'm a pretty lucky dad.
You have been there for your daughter through thick and thin, and I think that's been amazing to see what kind of dad that you wanted to be and have been. You wanted to be there for her growing up and didn't want to miss everything, right?
Yeah, that's the main reason I left the show is, Kelly would call me and say, Loden, her first this, and I had my little brag book that I would always look at all the cute little pictures, and the circumstance just arose on the show where I had this opportunity to leave, and Kelly and I talked about it extensively, and she just, you know, it was my decision to be be a dad, and and that's what I've been. So it's been great, you know, to wake up every morning, go up and wake her up with a kiss on the cheek, and you know, I'm at that stage where, oh, honey, just set your alarm. No, I like coming in and giving you a kiss on the cheek to wake you up.
Oh my God. Oh my God. When you were like, when you saw on like on Twitter, people are showing old clips, do you have anything in your head even that reminded you of that? Did you, this was my favorite thing we ever did on Days? Did you have a favorite story or thing you
Oh,
did? Or
wow. You know, it's funny because Loden is always asking me, hey, tell me another story. You know, so I've told her the hot air balloons and the, you know, river rafting and, you know, all the different things that I've done. And she and I are taking Kung Fu right now. We did a specific move in class the other day. And I said, oh, man, we did this move. And Drake hit me in the mouth. I got 8 stitches. She's like, what? Yeah. And I showed her one of the scenes where I was talking with my lip, just, you know, hanging out, because I had stitches in my lip.
oh my gosh.
Then it got her interest, and I said, oh, look at this one. This is where I had a real black eye, because and this is where I crashed on my bike and had a broken collarbone, and all the different things. And when I came in with the broken collarbone, because I broke it on the way to work with my bike crash on a Monday, and on the following Thursday, after Tuesday, I went into the hospital and they put a plate in to hold my collarbone together. Wednesday, I rested. Thursday, I went in and worked. And who was it? Josh. Josh says to me, okay, man, you raised the bar. None of us can stay home from work for the cold anymore.
You screwed it up for everybody. They have no excuse.
Yeah.
Did you love riding motorcycles?
Yes. And
Okay.
and it was something that I brought, you know, to the show at
Right.
the very beginning. I actually brought my own motorcycle, and then we got the Harley Davidson. And but this Kelly and I made a deal when Loden was born that I wouldn't ride motorcycles and she wouldn't jump out of airplanes.
Was she jumping out of it? What?
She loves to jump out of airplanes.
She does, like drop. Okay, little known facts.
When we came here to New Zealand on our honeymoon, she's like, it's way before bungee jumping was bungee jumping. And she's like, let's go bungee jumping. I'm like, you know, macho, yeah. Impress my. It's like a half a bridge out over this river gorge, and it's 500 feet. And I'm like, yeah. And you go out because they weigh you and all this, so they know how much do you want to be dipped into the water, just up to your neck or up to your waist. I'm like, what? And I go out there and I look down, and I'm like, you have fun, honey. I did not jump.
She did.
She did, of course. She loves it.
You like what? Oh my God. You guys are daredevils. There's the daredevil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One reason we love New Zealand.
So you guys have started a production company. Is that correct?
Actually, we're working for a production company. The company's called Blue Iris, AERIS.
Okay.
If you go to blueiris.com, then you can learn about what we're doing. But Kelly and I have talked about, well, she started obviously when we first met, doing a Christmas LP, and almost every Christmas she's brought it up, and she writes these Christmas songs. And we were talking with friends a couple of months ago about it. Came up in conversation, and she was mentoring a couple of young rock bands, and we're talking about it, and they're like, let's do it. And so this production company and these actually most of the people that are singing on it, they're all very different. I sing on it. I do quasi country thing, and then we have almost every other type of song, Christmas style of singing on the album. Kelly's mentoring this couple of young bands. One is called Elk, like the deer elk. Awesome. I love them because they're like an 80s rock band and they're 20 years old.
Are they from New Zealand?
Everybody, Kelly sings on it, I sing on it, and a buddy of ours, Kenny Miller, sings on it. Everyone else is from New Zealand. It's like a community thing that sort of came about because, I don't know, people here just embrace you. And we've been embraced by so many lovely people here. And we were like, hey, let's get together and do this,
Right.
And that's happening a lot. That's happening a lot with this COVID. People are in their houses putting together all sorts of things. And that's kind of what we did.
Yeah. Are these original Christmas songs or songs that everybody knows? Or
we just have 2 covers. Everything else is original. Most of them Kelly has written herself or with whoever it is that's singing. And the musicians down here are astounding. And we've got videos that are going out with, I think, pretty much all of them. Mine is pretty cool because I brought my truck down from the States because to replace it, my veggie oil truck, couldn't do a video without my truck.
And about the truck.
And the ocean and stuff. So, if they go on, they'll be able to see how I look these days.
Footprints in the sand. Thought I could not love her more, but I do. She is my heart. Nat King Cole on the radio. My first Christmas without snow. Ocean waves crash indigo. I found my love under the mistletoe.
It's sort of like we put a collection of Christmas songs together for you because they're all very different from each other. It's not like, oh, I'm going to listen to an album of country music or contemporary, whatever. There's all sorts of styles on there that makes it a lot of fun. Some of the proceeds are going to this this charity called Futures Without Violence, which in our opinion is something that's really they've been around for 30 years and they just they're all over the world. Let's see, they're providing groundbreaking programs, policies and campaigns that empower individuals and organizations working to end violence against women and children around the world. And they just had, we met with a couple of people, just like I said, out of the blue, and they had what they're trying to do just is huge. And so we portion of our proceeds will be going to them.
So everything you just said to me is on the website that you told the URL of the website?
Yes, and all that stuff will be on the blueiris.com.
And does the Christmas LP have a name?
Yes, it's called Joy.
You have no desire, is this correct? Or you don't want to be in Hollywood and that kind of, you don't like that?
I couldn't get back there if I tried anyway.
You can't come. But if we would let you in the country and COVID wasn't happening.
There is the entertainment business down here. So I've been so busy with just being a dad and, loving mountain biking and stuff. I can go mountain biking outside my front door and be in world-class tracks. So
you're happy.
I'm happy. The desire to get back. Oh, that's something else. A couple of the videos I directed.
Oh,
that
okay.
probably that probably wouldn't surprise a lot of the directors that I work for, because
They're like, oh, did he finally direct people? No.
always trying to do that anyway. But yeah,
Okay, so you directed a few videos of the different people, artists.
two of them. Actually, the two young boys, the two young bands, those two I directed, and they came out really nice.
Were you hard on them, or were you like, okay?
Oh, one of them, it was just like a party all day long. I would just say, okay, this is what we're doing, go. And the other wasn't much different from that. It was sort of like these guys, they were just like so easy and surprising. I was like, I don't think I was that easy when I was 20 years old. No, this is the way I want to do it. I was pretty hard-headed, but but these guys were there.
Oh, yeah, the folklore Days of Our Lives, you were hard-headed, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. But these guys were easy to work with.
Extremely. Just whatever. What you want me to do? What? Oh, okay. And they just had fun. Yeah.
But see, I could definitely see you like getting more into directing.
Oh,
would
Kelly?
You do that?
Yeah, Kelly had said
what to do.
When she came on the set of Days, she said, you kind of helped out there. You should really try to do this. I was like, when there's a problem, I try to figure out how to make it not a problem.
You would troubleshoot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good word for it. I'll use that.
Troubleshoot. That's a good one. Yeah.
So mostly because we didn't have time to mess around. So you just, after a while, you just go, oh, let's just do it like that, and then we can go forward and get it done. I want to go home. I got a script to learn for tomorrow.
But the question remains, so if you could get back in the country, would you want to work in Hollywood again? Like, do you have any desire to like act on a Hollywood? Like, are you kind of like, that's done?
No, I would love to act again. And it's getting about that time, because Loden is, I dropped her off at school. It used to be I'd hear from her a couple times during the day, and now she's like, okay, leave me alone. I'm fine. Like at the dance, Dad, you don't need to walk me to the door. Okay.
You'll have a little more time.
Yeah, because the demands on my daughter won't be making such demands on me, so I'll have a little more time. And Kelly wants to spend more time with her daughter. So, yeah. Hopefully, I did get an agent down here finally. Okay. There might be some stuff that comes up where I can work. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say to the Days of Our Lives fans who are celebrating 55 years of the show and who've been supportive of you all of these years? What would you want to say to them? Like, hey, thanks for your support.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there, watching all the old clips. Hopefully, yeah. This is, I've been saying over the years that I have had a couple different projects that I tried to do, like this thing that you're doing. I probably should have done, but my priorities weren't there. But now that, like you said, I'll have more time to do other things. Hopefully some of these projects like this will come to fruition.
And what if they said, we want to resurrect Beau, he's not really dead? What would you say?
It'd be rather difficult because I live in New Zealand.
Well, they could film him like locked up in New Zealand on a Zoom call. All right, Peter, thank you so much for zooming in tonight with me from New Zealand. This is such a treat.
My pleasure.
I really, really love reconnecting with you, and I know everybody will be so thrilled to see you and this new album and the new video and all sorts of stuff coming up. And as we know, there was no one like Beau Brady. Beau Brady.
Congratulations on today's for their 55th. That's amazing.
55 years. and you were such a part of it.